There are 12 cranial nerves, and most students find it very difficult to understand the 12 cranial nerves. I'm going to show you the easiest way to remember all the 12 cranial nerves, the easiest trick to remember their functions and where they exit from the brain. Now, let's go. So the number one cranial nerve we have, cranial nerve number one is the olfactory nerve. Olfactory nerve. The cranial nerve number two is the optic nerve. Right? Optic nerve. Now let's go. Cranial nerve number three. Cranial nerve number three is oculomotor nerve. Oculomotor nerve. Oculomotor nerve. The number four, very easy to remember, is a trochlea. It's a trochlea nerve. Number five, very interesting cranial nerve, is a trigeminal nerve. Trigeminal nerve. Number six, the number sixth cranial nerve we have is the abducens. Abducens. Number seventh cranial nerve is facial nerve. Facial nerve. Number seven we have is a facial nerve, right? Facial nerve. Number eight we have is a vestibulocochlear nerve. Vestibulocochlear nerve. Number ninth cranial nerve we have is a glossopharyngeal nerve. Glossopharyngeal nerve. The number 10th cranial nerve, let's take it up here. Number 10th cranial nerve is the vagus nerve, or vagus nerve, and how you want to call it, but like vagus or vagus nerve. Then the number 11th cranial nerve we have is the accessory nerve. Accessory nerve. Accessory nerve. And the number 12th cranial nerve we have is the hypoglossal nerve. Hypoglossal nerve. So there is something very interesting you need to know about these cranial nerves, and this is really what examiners love to ask, right? So whether it is motor or sensory or both, right? Whether it is motor, sensory, or both. So for the motor, basically means impulse is coming from the central nervous system sent to a particular organ or muscle to be able to make a movement or carry out a particular function. Whereas sensory, these cranial nerves are collecting sensory gathered from the organ of senses. For example, let's say your nose or your eyes, maybe you're seeing something, so it's going to collect that information and send to the central nervous system via a particular nerve that we're going to look at here very shortly. And both, these are cranial nerves that can send both signal and receive both, that can send signal and also receive signal to the central nervous system. So that is what you need to understand. And here I'm going to show you the easiest way to remember these cranial nerves by either their motor, sensory, or both. The cranial nerves that are sensory, that receives signals from the environment and send it to the central nervous system. One, we have here the cranial nerve number one. Cranial nerve number one, let's say S here, because it is sensory. Cranial nerve number two also is sensory, right? Now, trigeminal nerve is very interesting. That is why I just wrote it in the blue, but it is a very interesting cranial nerve. It is actually mixed, right? So it is mixed. All the cranial nerves I've written in red are muscle cranial nerves. The brain is sending signal to have an effect on the particular muscles, right? So that the signal is coming from the central nervous system to make an effect to a particular muscle. Let's look at the function of each of these cranial nerves. What are they going to do? So the first cranial nerve is olfactory. The function of this cranial nerve is to collect sense of smell. So if you're smelling something, that thing you're smelling via your nostrils, the impulse is going to be collected by this cranial nerve and send it to the central nervous system to tell you that, oh, you are smelling something bad or good, right? So for here, sensory, what? Smell. Then the second cranial nerve is optic nerve. It helps you to see, right? So the optic nerve collects your sense of vision. You see something, that signal is going to be sent to the brain via this nerve, the optic nerve, right? Then we come to the oculomotor nerve. So one thing also you need to know about these motor nerves is very interesting. All the three motor nerves here you're seeing, all the three, oculomotor, trochlear nerve, and abducens, they help you in eye movement. So they help you to move your eye up, down, sideways, up. You get me? So all your eye movement is controlled by these cranial nerves. The oculomotor nerve, trochlear nerve, and the abducens nerve. So note this one, 3, 4, and 6. 3, 4, 6 is helping you to make your eye like this. So just make like 3, 4, 6. 3, 4, 6. In an exam hall, you want to remember 3, 4, 6. It's helping me to rotate my eyes, right? Up, down, and inward. So then we come to the trigeminal nerve. So the trigeminal, from the word tri, just know when you hear the word tri here, it has 3 branches. It gives off 3 major branches. So trigeminal, 3 branches. 3 branches. Now what are these branches? One, we have the ophthalmic branch. Ophthalmic, we just simply say V1. Ophthalmic. 2 is the maxilla branch. Maxilla, V2. Then the 3 is the mandibular. The mandibular branch, which is V3. So ophthalmic, maxilla, and mandibular, trigeminal nerve. Trigeminal is a mixed cranial nerve, right? And it has 3 branches. Don't forget, trigeminal, 3 branches: ophthalmic, mandibular, and maxilla branches. What they do is, see your face. Here, ophthalmic, innervate the upper part of your face, maxilla, and here you have the mandibular branch coming here for your masticatory muscles, right? The trigeminal nerve and the facial nerve are involved in the innervation of your face, right? So both the trigeminal and the facial nerve are involved in the innervation of your face. So note this, don't forget 5 and 7 for your face. Vestibulocochlear nerve is helping you to hear. So the fact that you are hearing what I'm saying is because of the vestibulocochlear nerve is collecting the sound waves and sending it to your brain, right? Collect the sound wave and send it to your brain. Your brain interprets and tell you that I am the one talking. So the vestibulocochlear nerve is the one doing that. And it's also mixed, right? Then we go to the glossopharyngeal nerve. So your sense of taste is sent to your brain through this cranial nerve, the glossopharyngeal nerve. Also helps you in swallowing. Now we come to the vagus nerve, the 10th cranial nerve. From the word vagus, vag is the largest cranial nerve because it has the largest cause. It comes all the way down to your internal organ. So this is the cranial nerve that is going to innervate your internal organs. Internal organs like your what? Your lungs, your heart, and coming down to your intestines, right? Like coming down to your intestine, let's say your stomach, etc. So then we come to the accessory nerves. So the accessory nerve innervates your muscles here, the sternocleidomastoid. If you make your hair like this, you see this muscle here, and also here you see the trapezius muscle. So the accessory nerve innervates these muscles, right? And then the last one, which is the hypoglossal nerve. Now, the hypoglossal nerve helps you in the movement of your tongue. So, if, for example, there's a problem with this nerve, it will be very difficult for you to talk. Because without the movement of your tongue, you cannot be able to produce speech. You cannot be able to talk. So, the hypoglossal nerve is also very important because it helps in the movement of your tongue. That is why it is a motor nerve, because your tongue is made up of muscles. This nerve comes to innervate those muscles and you'll be able to talk. So let's look at where each of these cranial nerves is coming from the central nervous system. The olfactory nerve is sending sensory to the olfactory lobe that will be processed and sent to the central nervous system. So here we have olfactory lobe. The optic nerve is collecting these senses and send it to the visual cortex. The visual cortex of the occipital lobe of the brain. The visual cortex located in the occipital lobe of the brain. Then the oculomotor, the trochlear nerve, are coming directly from the midbrain. Right? The trigeminal nerve, the abducens nerve, facial nerve, and the vestibulocochlear nerve, 5, 6, 7, 8, are all coming directly from the pons. So that is from the brainstem, right? The midbrain, the pons, and the medulla oblongata are made up of the brainstem. So they are coming from the pons. Now the rest of the remaining, from 9 here to the 12th here, they are all coming from the medulla of the brainstem. So how these cranial nerves exit the skull? This is another high yield part of the cranial nerves that you must know. Number 1 cranial nerve, let's just write it here, is, you already know, is the olfactory nerve. It is exiting the skull through the cribriform plate. The cribriform plate. So as you can see from this picture, the cranial nerve number 2, optic nerve, is exiting the skull via the optic canal. Optic canal. Then something interesting here. Cranial nerve number 3, 4, and then cranial nerve number 5, first branch, which is the ophthalmic branch, they are all exiting the skull via the superior orbital fissure. Right? Superior orbital fissure. Superior orbital fissure. So these 3 cranial nerves exit the skull via the superior orbital fissure. Now, what about the branch 2 and 3? The mandibular and maxilla. So the mandibular branch, or let's say the maxilla, coming from foramen rotundum. Foramen rotundum. Then the V3 is coming out via foramen ovale. Cranial nerve number 7, cranial nerve number 7 and 8, facial and vestibulocochlear nerve, they all exit the skull via this one. Let me make this arrow like this. So this and this exit the skull via the internal acoustic meatus. 9, 10, and 11 exit the skull via the jugular foramen. I think it would be better to take note for yourself while I'm writing. Then the last one, which is the cranial nerve number 12, here. Number 12, which is the hypoglossal nerve, is exiting the skull via the hypoglossal canal. Hypoglossal canal. So I want to believe now you can remember all the 12 cranial nerves, their functions, how they exit from the skull, and where their nuclei are located in the brain. At the end of this video, I'm going to put a picture where you can screenshot to see everything I've talked about in one picture so that you'll be able to easily memorize them. So if there's any way you've learned from this video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to like this video and let me know in the comment section the next topic you want us to talk about. Until then, see you in the next lecture.